And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the stream. We have crazy news coming out of Iran. We have confirmation of airstrikes happening in Iran. We also have confirmation that the war, or I'm sorry, the operation of Operation Fury, Epic Fury, is officially over. And the new mission has started. Operation Freedom. It should be Operation Freedom Straight, but it's Operation Freedom, where they're going to be they're going to be escorting ships or protecting ships, should I say, that's going through the strait. We have a lot of news coming in today. We're not probably going to get to all of them because we actually, like I said, I have to drive 6 hours here in just a little bit, and go out of state for a while. But I will be coming on live tonight through via phone. So I hope y'all can work with me. I'll be in a different setting and everything else. But anyways, I hope y'all like the news for this evening. I apologize about last night. I see that we actually broke a record last night on how many views we actually got over on Rumble. Amazing, amazing work. I love it. I like it. I want some more of it. But yeah, we actually hit a milestone of 150 views on our one video from just the other night, which is, I know it don't sound like a lot, but for us it is. And every view actually means a lot to us. So it don't even matter if it's one view or 1,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000. But yeah, but we have we actually have we have a whole bunch of new followers that we got to go through here. Wow. Mango must. I don't say I can barely. Let me get my glasses on. Mango Musa Lin. Appreciate the follow. Rack Manly 9. I appreciate the follow. J Dag Oatson. Oh, J Dag Oatson. I appreciate that follow. Roll and Mark, appreciate the follow. Hearn VR, appreciate the follow. Heart Heck, appreciate the follow. Covert Recon, appreciate the follow. Travel Logistics, appreciate the follow. Clyde Miller, appreciate the follow. Man, Retro Shop, appreciate the follow. Unmute, appreciate the follow. J4 Deuce, appreciate the follow. Okay. I'm sorry. Smitey54, appreciate the follow. Arcadia Gaming, I appreciate the follow. Wow. That was a lot of followers within 8 hours. Yes, definitely appreciate the follow, y'all. Every follow or subscription, likes, comments, it all helps, man. Every little bit helps, pushes us towards getting more views, so we can actually get bigger of a crowd and actually get more phone calls coming in. You know, because we're trying to keep the call-ins. I really do want to try to keep the call-ins because they're actually going to be a big part of our show. I don't know any other news station that's actually doing that, where you can actually call in and talk to them while they're on the air. Do you know anybody? I don't either. I mean, I know news stations that you can call and leave messages, but not actually talk to somebody. You know, and actually communicate with the host. It's something new that I want to try. Hopefully, it brings more of an audience. We have a decent sized audience now. I want to get in the thousands and thousands of thousands. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to get the news out there. You know, all these other news stations, they're sitting here talking about the same daggone stuff every day. Like, dude, there's stuff going on in the world other than stupid stuff that you literally didn't talk about the day before. So we said to ourselves that we were going to actually sit here and make a platform that we're actually going to do no BS, you know, bring straight facts and no, you know, bullhickey and. But I'll let y'all decide about that, and if y'all like it, if y'all like the show or not, leave a comment down below. Also, want to say that, excuse me, we have opportunities for moderators coming up. I am going to be looking probably for 2 moderators out of each platform to actually start doing clips, stuff like that. So if anybody's interested, please let me know. But further ado, let's get to the news.
Come in and subscribe and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we've been able to get breaking news from around the world as the United States Navy has engaged and hit an Iranian tanker attempting to break the blockade of the Gulf of Oman with its 20mm main gun earlier this day. We have also heard that the United States of America has conducted armed action against a second Iranian tanker, forcing it to turn around and not break the U.S. blockade at the entrance of the Gulf of Oman. Meanwhile, further information has emerged on the developments of yesterday in the major firefight that was engaged in between the IRGC and the U.S. Navy as 3 U.S. destroyers attempted to make their transit out of the strait. In the meantime, confirmed hits have been seen in Dubai, with smoke rising from the area of the Dubai International Airport as significant amounts of U.S. military flights are still being conducted over Saudi Arabia and Iraq. Israel has also conducted airstrikes within the Baalbek Valley in Lebanon, and we've also seen that the Iranians are attempting to ramp up Chinese trade, although we're not sure how successful that really will be, and we've also seen a large number of unmarked Iranian aircraft over the city of Zanjan earlier today with photo evidence. We've also been able to hear that the MSC Ocean Trader has arrived in Diego Garcia along with a couple of other support vessels, which may be showing that the U.S. is preparing a special forces operation against the Islamic Republic of Iran sometime within the immediate future. The People's Republic of China has also started to state that they believe that the United States won't be there to help Taiwan once the Chinese begin an attempted naval invasion of the small island country. Significant Ukrainian drone attacks were also conducted in Chechnya overnight, and the Russian Federation has attempted to claim that the state of Ukraine is apparently conducting an act of terror with their attacks on the Rostov region last night, and that the broadcast of the May 9th parade will be delayed by several minutes to ensure that if anything happens that's unforeseen, they can cut the broadcast before the public sees exactly what happened. But with all that out of the way, we do have to make sure to get into all of this news, starting with our largest stories first, and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the video. Moving us on and into our largest stories of the day, the United States Navy has taken armed action against Iranian tankers, which have been attempting to violate the U.S. naval blockade and the naval blockade line near to the entrance of the Gulf of Oman. This blockade has been ongoing for several weeks at this point, and the United States of America is attempting through this measure to be able to cause significant economic damage to the Islamic Republic of Iran, to be able to force them to capitulate to U.S. demands and to accept a peace offer that we give them that largely would align with what we need as the United States of America. Unfortunately, blockades take an incredibly long time to coalesce any significant amount of economic damage, and currently it does appear that there is now a emerging understanding that the United States of America cannot wait as long as the blockade would have to last to be able to conduct enough damage on Iran to make them meet our demands. However, we did get to see that in the meantime, the U.S. is still continuing the blockade. And according to reports that came out, Fox News reported that the U.S. conducted airstrikes against several empty tankers attempting to bypass the blockade and return to Iran. Apparently, both of these vessels were VLCCs and have been forcibly turned around. One of these particular airstrikes, which can or cannot be called an airstrike, was a gun run or a strafing run by a U.S. F-18 Super Hornet from most likely the USS Abraham Lincoln or the USS George H.W. Bush. The motor tanker Sea Star 3, seen here in this video, was attempting to break the U.S. blockade and had not listened to radio calls to stop the vessel or turn it around and send it back to an Iranian port. Because of this, they were then sending in an F-18, much like we'll see in the clip, to be able to conduct a strafing run on the engine room, the rudder room, and the machinery spaces to be able to bring the ship to a dead stop where it's at, and then further allow for the United States to board the vessel later. We can actually see the aftermath of this strafing run right here. As you can see, some of the rounds impacting the rear area near to the smokestack, or the exhaust, and we can also see smoke now permeating from the impact site. We now see a similar action being conducted against the motor tanker Sevda, once again by another 20mm strafing run from an F-18 Super Hornet.
Whoa.
What's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Impossible.
Nina can't code.
Interesting. Can it generate reports?
It can now.
Nice.
So you're saying we can all build apps now?
Yeah.
I'm on lunch.
I gotta make a call.
I'll be in my office. Just built.
We can see that there is some sort of a gas being vented out from the machinery room, and we can once again see that this is now a repeat of the prior video that we saw on the motor tanker Sea Star 3. It does appear that at the moment the United States of America is continuing its blockade quite effectively against the Islamic Republic of Iran and is stopping any merchant ships and tankers from being able to exit the Gulf of Oman and into the open sea, or exit the open sea and enter the Gulf of Oman in an attempt to make it to an Iranian port. In the meantime, the Iranians have also announced that they have seized a tanker today as well, the Chinese-owned tanker Ocean Koi in the Sea of Oman, claiming the vessel was carrying Iranian oil and attempting to disrupt the country's exports. Quite an interesting one, to say the least, and it does appear that the Islamic Republic of Iran is now also seizing and stopping any vessels and tankers that are attempting to break their blockade within the area just outside of the Strait of Hormuz. We have seen limited naval operations by the IRGC in prior times against some vessels like these, but the fact that it is a Chinese-flagged vessel is one of the more interesting facets or facts about it. It does appear that the Iranians are not holding any bars on any ship that they attack or seize or stop. It can be any vessel, even including allied vessels of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and they are not even safe from the ire of the Iranian Navy. In the meantime, we've also been able to hear that the Islamic Republic of Iran has claimed as of 3 hours ago that there was another ongoing clash between the Iranian and U.S. ships near to the Strait of Hormuz, although we have not been able to get any additional corroboration of that fact at the moment. In the meantime, however, we did get to see that the strait is being swarmed once more. And while this might be very hard to see in this image here, some of y'all may be able to note the bright blue looking sorts of dots that are all over this picture. That is actually Iranian fast attack boats. And y'all would not believe it, but apparently, amongst all of the pictures that have been taken today around the Strait of Hormuz, there are around 150 fast attack boats that are at sea and underway at this moment right now, inside of the strait, apparently very close to the minefield or within the minefield at the time that these satellite pictures were being taken. This is most likely showing us that the Iranians are laying an even larger number of mines, as the only time that we have seen these sorts of drone swarms, and in particular, the only time that they've gone into the minefield, was when they were laying more mines. Each of these fast attack boats can lay about 1 or 2 mines apiece. We believe that it might be a little bit higher than that, but we're trying to go with a conservative estimate to make things somewhat reasonable. If there was a maximum of 1 mine being carried per vessel, they most likely dropped at the most 150 sea mines in the Strait of Hormuz again today. If each of these vessels were able to carry 2 mines, that means that the number was 300 mines that were just dropped off in the strait today, meaning that the minefield is becoming larger with each passing day, and of course will become more difficult, slow, and arduous to be able to demine and clear for safe passage in the future. Speaking of safe passage, we have been able to hear that no ships whatsoever have passed through the Strait of Hormuz today due to public tracking information on AIS transponder on marine traffic. And at this moment right now, if we take a look, there is absolutely no vessels attempting to transit the Strait of Hormuz. We can see some crude oil tankers that are hanging out around the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas, much like this one here, which is the farthest out and the closest to actually being in the strait, but there are no vessels that are actively moving through the strait, either into the Persian Gulf or into the area of the Gulf of Oman. We've also been able to hear that while safe passage by commercial ships has not been guaranteed, it appears that we're getting some slight further developments and information on the U.S. warships that attempted the passage yesterday through the Strait of Hormuz and came under significant fire, engaging in what can only be described as one of the heaviest direct firefights in the Navy's recent history, as long as the large swarm of fast attack boats, Iranian anti-ship drones, and Iranian anti-ship missiles, which were all fired at the vessels simultaneously and were launched towards the vessels during that time to be able to try and thwart their passage or even possibly hit and destroy them. According to information that we got a little bit earlier on in the morning, it does appear that a fire was detected yesterday at the coordinates as follows along the U.S. designated safe passage route near Oman's coastline in the Strait of Hormuz. The fire suggests a vessel may have been struck by the Iranian IRGC and set ablaze. We do not know who this is But we do want to make it a little bit clear that this is about the area that we found out that all three of those U.S. destroyers were actually sailing through during a very similar period of time. Either a commercial vessel was hit in this area, which we would consider to be somewhat unlikely, as we haven't seen any commercial vessels attempt a passage through that area over yesterday, or this may be indicating that there was an actual fire on board one of the destroyers, the Arleigh Burke classes, that was attempting to pass through the strait, and one of them has actually been damaged. We're not entirely sure what it is, and take that with a grain of salt, folks. We're still trying to do a lot of sparsing and information finding here in the background to be able to figure out what exactly the story is. Maybe somehow there was a tanker that was there that didn't have its AIS transponder on, or the IRGC may have been able to land a hit on a destroyer, which then led to an open fire on the deck, which then required damage control teams to put out the fire. We're just not entirely sure. There was a fire that was reported there, however, and is confirmed by firms, so there was an active fire inside the strait. We just don't know what or who it was. If it was on a U.S. destroyer, then we could assume that passages through the strait by U.S. destroyers will most likely stop from this point on, unless if some sort of an airstrike campaign is conducted to clear out most of the threats that exist to the U.S. Navy along the Iranian coastline. If it was against a tanker, then the situation has not changed at all, and the United States Navy will continue to operate normally, conducting sporadic passages to and fro in the Strait of Hormuz. But moving us on out of that information, we've also confirmed that the Iranians did land a hit somewhere near to the Dubai International Airport, as these videos here from a commercial aircraft are actually showing us what appears to be smoke and fire rising from a nearby area to the international airport. This clip right here also shows us that smoke plume, once again, very close to the international airport in Dubai. This does confirm that the United Arab Emirates has sustained some form of a direct hit by the Islamic Republic of Iran and a direct attack near to the international airport in Dubai, and the city of Dubai has most likely suffered more widespread damage as well. However, due to the laws in the United Arab Emirates not allowing picture or videos of any of these attacks or damage without facing imprisonment, we don't really get to see a lot of it, meaning that this is an incredibly rare glimpse at what kind of damage is actually being caused in the UAE, which is showing us the Iranians are still landing some hits throughout the entirety of the country. We have also been able to hear that several U.S. aircraft have been up and running, including Andor 53, a U.S. Air Force E-3 Sentry, which was spotted near the border with Qatar. The AWACS aircraft provide airborne battle space management, command, and control, coordinating operations across a wide area. The presence of these aircraft usually indicate that some sort of a combat air operation at a minimum is ongoing at the time, and these aircraft are there to be able to coordinate most of those activities and make sure that they're able to communicate more effectively through a single nexus with other parts of the armed forces within the area, emphasizing combined arms operations instead of operating as a single detached branch of the military. So we do generally understand that this would suggest that some form of a combat air patrol by the United States Air Force is most likely ongoing over Qatar, the UAE, and possibly even the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, but we'll have to continue to see what kind of developments we get over the next coming hours to be able to make sure exactly what's going on and what the current air scenario looks like in this area of southeastern Arabia. We've also heard that there was other air activity that did occur within northern Saudi Arabia over the course of the day, including an MQ-4 Triton, which conducted a significant reconnaissance over the entirety of the area, including the border with Iraq, Kuwait, the Persian Gulf, looking into Iran, and then looped all the way back, conducting the entire route largely on a round trip. We've also been able to see that a United States Air Force E-11 was also on the move from Prince Sultan Air Base, and it returned over Iraq after a pause. Apparently, this is suggesting that there may be ground forces within the area of Iraq. We're not entirely sure who or what number it may be, but it is giving us an idea that there is, at a minimum, some U.S. ground forces inside of Iraq, beyond the ones that we prior have known of inside of the area of the Erbil air bases or Army air bases that are up in that area. Israel has also continued their airstrikes against Hezbollah forces inside the town of Baalbek, as we got to see some clips here showing the aftermath of the explosions and airstrikes by the Israeli Air Force. That ceasefire lasted an unbelievable amount of time. Moving us on out of that strike in the Baalbek Valley, we've also been able to hear further news around the rest of the world, and particularly coming from inside of Iran. According to news that has come out via Bloomberg, they state that the Iranians are trying to ramp up trade with China via rail in a bid to blunt the impact of the U.S. blockade of its ports, per Bloomberg. However, we generally would assume that this will most likely not be effective at mitigating most or even close to part of the damage that is going to be caused by the U.S. blockade. Supply lines and logistics routes are fairly flexible, but not as flexible to be able to change their entire structure within a matter of a couple of weeks, and to also see that their complete mode of transportation is changed from being oversea to overland. That's very difficult to conduct. Not only that, we've started to hear that the rail route that they're attempting to use is through Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan. From what we generally know, there is railway infrastructure within this area. Mainline operations are possible, but we do not believe that it would be at the subsequent capacity to where it could completely supplant all of their sea trade and completely conduct the trade over rail. The reason why they don't conduct it over rail is because it is more expensive than shipping. That's just how that works. And also on top of that, it may not be able to handle the supply volume or cargo capacity necessary to completely supplant the sea routes that the Iranians were working on. So while it might mitigate a very small fraction of the economic damage that the U.S. blockade is currently posing to Iran, it sure as hell is not going to be supplanting all of their trade capabilities at sea, and any statements otherwise would largely be akin to Iranian propaganda to make it sound like they're invincible. In reality, that just cannot be the case. We've also heard that over the area of Zanjan, which is a larger city along the Tabriz-Tehran highway, several unmarked aircraft were spotted flying over the area today. It does appear that these are most likely some form of Iranian Air Force diplomatic aircraft flying back from Russia or China. We can't be exactly sure, but certainly this aircraft either fits the description of an Airbus A340 or it fits the description of an Ilyushin 96. We're just not exactly sure which, but I would say it's most likely an Airbus A340, and if it is, then that definitely means that it is an Iranian diplomatic aircraft. They use those almost primarily for diplomatic operations. Moving us on out of the Middle East and on up into, well, actually moving us on down, as a matter of fact, into the area of Diego Garcia, it also appears that U.S. forces are beginning to base within this area in a very specific and peculiar way. According to information that has just arrived recently, Sentinel-2 satellite photography from the 7th of May has revealed a highly significant arrival, and that is not to be understated. It appears that it has been the arrival of the MV Ocean Trader, which is the Special Operations Command vessel of the United States military. From what we generally understand, it seems to be used and has been prior used in covert operations to capture Maduro and other high-key military operations that we've seen recently by the United States Armed Forces. This is most likely suggesting that the arrival of some special forces and specific special forces units has occurred within the area, and we're most likely going to be seeing as a result of this that the United States may be planning or preparing some form of special forces raids into the Islamic Republic of Iran, considering that they've sailed all the way from the Caribbean to Diego Garcia to prepare for something, but we don't know what. We also noted that an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer appeared to be there as an escort to the MV Ocean Trader and the USNS Pillau, which we can also see right up here as well. And it does appear that we may be seeing, as a result of this, some form of special operations raids that are conducted by the United States at some point in the future against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Very rarely are assets ever moved into an area with absolutely no intent or wish to use them, so this would be giving us an idea somewhere in the planning they're thinking about using special forces, which would suggest that there may be some sort of a raid type tactic or raid strategy that may be conducted against Iran, either to clear out threats from the Strait of Hormuz or to be able to try and secure radioactive materials within the Islamic Republic of Iran, which would be illegal for Iran to possess. Outside of that, the People's Republic of China has also stated today that they believe that the United States may not be there for Taiwan if the Chinese begin a war with the Taiwanese. Chinese analysts are increasingly arguing that the war with Iran exposed a key weakness of the United States, which is a shortage of weapons for a prolonged conflict. According to the outlet, in just a few months of fighting, the U.S. used up a significant share of its long-range missile stockpiles. In China, this is seen as a signal that Washington is not ready for a long war against an equal opponent. Chinese war hawks hawks are now more actively pushing the idea that the U.S. will not be able to defend Taiwan, and in their view, if the U.S. is already struggling in a conflict with Iran, a confrontation with China would even be a greater challenge. And we've largely stated that here on the channel, that if everyone's saying that the Iranians are a real tough nut to crack for the United States, wait until we have to fight the Chinese, because the Chinese are a lot more difficult. Fighting wars isn't always about having the largest military and the biggest number of bombs and the largest number of sorties and hitting the biggest and greatest things in the country. Most of a war is actually fought through sheer planning, cunning, and superior strategy alone. The war in Ukraine is an amazing example of that. The Ukrainians materially were completely deficient compared to the Russian armed forces through the first few years of the war in Ukraine. Yet superior planning, strategy, cunning, and a mitigation of use of resources and personnel was able to see that the Ukrainians not only survived those first few years, but has now turned the situation entirely around by the fourth year, and are now actively pushing the Russian Federation back month to month, and Russia is slowly losing ground in Ukraine, and is
Now, let me say something about this. Now, Russia was supposed to finish Ukraine in 3 days, and it's been almost 5 years. So it shows you that it's not the size of the country; it's the will of the people. You know, it shows you how confident, or not confident, but in the beginning of the war, Biden called asked Zelensky, "Do you need a ride out of there so we can evacuate you out of Ukraine?" He said, "I don't need a ride. I need ammo." I he was not playing like. But I hope that all that gets settled, because there's too many people dying in that war. On both sides. And I'm just not talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about on both sides. Russian people don't need to be dying like that either. Over a pathetic, pointless war. That is going to drag on and on and on, and be a drain to the Middle East. It's dragging the whole world down, because all this stuff is really messing with all the logistics that's going on in the world. And we need that. We need to make sure that everything is flowing perfectly. That way everything is right on key. And that way everybody else can everybody can flourish. If trade gets messed up, then everything else gets messed up. Stock market, food prices, gas prices, automobile prices, everything goes up, because of course oil goes up, and if oil goes up, market goes up. Market goes up, then all the prices around the world goes up as well. So it's a falling turd, if y'all know what I mean. It all depends on just how big of a is involved. But just luckily that Russia wasn't too big of a trade with the United States and stuff anyways. Now there was with the Middle East at first, and UAE, or I'm sorry, the European Union, was, because they was buying energy and supplies from Russia. So supposedly they stopped that, and has what's the word I'm looking for? They have dropped substantially on getting energy from Russia, if not all the way. It's insane. We also have confirmation of the United States bombing ports in Iran last night. We was talking about that we had tankers in the air last night on air. and I said that something was going on, and I'm pretty sure that bombing is probably about to be starting, or if it hasn't already started. And what do you know? This morning I wake up, or today I wake up, and sure enough, we've already dropped bombs on Iran and on the ports. I see that the next step is coming, and it's going to be massive. So stay tuned. I will be doing my broadcasts on YouTube and Rumble. Also probably maybe Kick. It will be later on. It will be single videos because I'll be doing it via phone. And I apologize if the video is not that good because the service where I'm going to be at is probably not that well. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. That is it for the news for right now. I hope y'all enjoy the show. Call lines are now closed. Call lines will be back open at 10:30 tonight. Make sure that y'all actually drop a like and subscribe. Much love to all the followers, dude. Like, much love. Y'all are actually, like I say all the time, y'all the backbone of this channel, man. And I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for y'all. The more followers and more subscribers we start getting, the more I see that y'all actually appreciate it. And I actually appreciate y'all. And I hope y'all have a wonderful and blessed day. And I hope y'all have a good Mother's Day if I don't talk to you. If y'all don't see my show until then. But much love to all y'all.